Alright, for the story, I'm gonna leave out the names for personal reasons so those people don't feel attacked or anything negative out of it. I just wanna tell my story because, I'm not gonna make any books or anything lately, but also to get my viewers to know who I am and how I grew up and how I became the person I am today. And this video is intended for older people because it's very mature content to the story. And so this will be chapter 1, like part 1. I'm probably gonna do more chapters along the way in parts. So I guess we'll start with basically what I was told by family members and friends, that by my parents, that I guess my mom and my dad had a very wild, crazy party night, and I guess they were both drunk or something, and my father, I guess, took advantage of my mom, and you know, a few months later I was born, and my mom was not ready to be a mother figure. She wasn't ready to take care of another human being like that. She was also having very strong issues of her own. And if you can't take care of yourself, how can you take care of, a child? So my mom went to a very mass depression and probably was very suicidal. My aunts told me and that my mom didn't really love me as how a mom would love her child. I guess I wasn't really nurtured, wasn't really taken care of, or wasn't picked up, or I wasn't loved in a certain way. And I guess that's a part of how I was born. Right now, to this day, I have a very hard time with affection, and I just, despite the word love, and I just don't mind affection, but it does bother me to a core, and it doesn't make sense to me. But it's knowing my past, it kind of does. So I guess as a baby to a toddler, I never knew my dad. I don't have too much memories or recollections of him. I only seen them for the first time when I was 18, but I'll get to that when the time comes. So my dad's out of the picture, and my mom is a single mom going through a rough time, and I guess she gets involved with men, and she had gotten pregnant again, but with my brother, who's the second oldest, obviously, at this point in time. And his dad, I thought it was my dad, so I called him Dad. It was my first word was Dad, and it was towards that man. And they explained to me that he was not my dad. And somehow, as a very young kid, I understood that. I acknowledged it, and I was like, alright, he's not my dad. And it was a very rocky childhood. Like I said, my mom was very depressed. She was a broken woman, I would say, because she, growing up herself, was sexually abused, verbally abused, just the whole shebang about it, to create a broken person. And for us, it was hard to have a mother like that because, again, you can't take care of yourself if you can't take care of, your kids and stuff like that. All I remember too, as a young toddler and child, that I had a lot of hatred and a lot of anger. I just felt like I had the shit end of the stick every time. And I do love my mom. I appreciate everything she's done for me, even to this day. I love her for doing her best, but I have so much anger, and I don't know how to deal with it. Even as a kid, I having that much anger as a kid bottled up. You kids just act out, which I did. I broke stuff. I was so destructive. I hurt my brother. I smashed things, and I have no idea why. And my mom would come in swinging, frantic, and being angry. Like, your kid just broke some shit. You're gonna walk in and punish them. And my mom would ask me, why did you do it? And I would always give the same answer for the longest time of my life. And my answer every time would be, I don't know. I meant that. I sincerely don't know why I did the things I did. I was just a lost, broken kid. Um, Growing up with my brother. Everybody favored Chance, my brother. He was very happy. He had the big eyes. He was so happy. He was affectionate. And then there was me, who was very angry and dark and just aggressive. So everybody favored him, and everybody kind of just didn't really acknowledge me the same way. And me as a kid, some kids wouldn't really understand that, but I did. I understand that everybody favored him more than me. I understood everything, even though I was just a child. I was very smart for someone that young. I don't remember a whole lot. All I remember is bits and pieces here and there. I know my mom did the best she could. I mean, our house was broken into, stuff was stolen, TV, movies, food, toys, whatever. A lot of stuff was stolen, and we had nothing. My mom had to restart our lives countless times because of people stealing or people just screwing our lives up for whatever reason they want to do. I have no idea why. And so, like, we moved here and there. We had moved from Ontario and New Brunswick. So much moving. I remember so much moving around. We stayed with friends, we stayed with family. It was such a hectic period of time. And somewhere along the lines there, I remember I was sexually abused. I don't can't pinpoint exactly where, when, or who did it, but I do remember the pain, and I do remember the moment of being like sexually abused as a kid. And that was the first time I was sexually abused. It was around as a toddler to a kid, and I don't exactly remember what, but it's like in my mind somewhere. I guess down from toddler to kid, I had, little friends here and there due to moving. Family was very distant because my mom was a very verbal, headstrong, bold woman. And she was very toxic to family members and friends because they lectured her, they said the things that my mom didn't want to hear, basically. And most of the time, like, my mom didn't want to deal with it or hear it. And so I remember a few times my mom was still depressed. She spent most of her time that I remember seeing her in her bedroom sleeping due to her working late nights. My mom, I found out not long ago, she was an escort, which is, I give my mom the highest respect because she did a lot of things to keep her children fed, clothed, and warm. And it's very sad because my mom had to do stuff like that to keep us going. And I'll never forget that. And that's why I love her. as much as she like fucked me up, I still love that woman for doing the best she could. Everything she did, and not saying it was right, but when when you become a parent yourself and you make those sacrifices and those decisions to keep your family going, you just act. Remember, Chance and I would go to school and would have. Well, Chance was very verbal and social. He had a lot of friends here and there. He had a girlfriend every day of the week because he was such a lady killer. Like, he was just a nice kid. All the girls wanted him, and I remember as a little kid, I was bullied a lot. I was so bullied a lot. I remember got hit a few times, yelled at, always pushed around, and I kind of just sat there and took it. I was just okay, all right. Got pushed around. I was just okay, and I just carried on my day. And I know along the lines, I had voices in my head to developing up. I don't know if it's when I used to develop a split personality or I had some kind of mental disorder, disability. All I know is I was just hearing things and you tell me to act on them and I do them and I have no idea why or what happened. Like, it was a long time ago, but I do remember bits and pieces of it. Uh, I remember my brother and I went in and out of foster homes too because my mom had a very stern discipline to her kids. Excuse me. We had, we've been hit with the belt a few times. Me mostly because I was a very bad kid. Not a bad kid, but very a broken kid. My mom did not know how to deal with that. And out of my brother and I think I've honestly had the worst of it. Because my brother, he did have his father too. He visited them. I did not have a dad. I did not have a dad figure. It was just myself, my mom, and my brother. That's the three family members I acknowledged that was my family. My grandparents weren't around too much because I know my mom and them weren't getting along. My aunts constantly fight with each other. Just so much to witness as a kid. Um, I remember. I know there's a period of time too when I was a kid that I was having thoughts of suicide. Like, I started at a young age, and I remember I just wanted to kill myself. I was so reckless of how I carried myself as a kid, and not none of my family members knew about it, or not even my mom to this day. I think my mom had ideas and clues that her kids are depressed and whatever became with involved with me. But I remember as a young age, and I didn't know how to explain or deal with it or anything because I'm a kid, unexperienced. I was depressed and I was suicidal for a very long time. Like, I remember times like looking out at when we lived in apartments or high places, or I thought about jumping in front of cars. I thought about jumping out the window, and I thought about like drowning myself. And I didn't know about like shooting yourself or like hanging yourself or cutting your wrist. No, I was just a little kid. I was thinking about because I watched a lot of cartoons and shows, and people just drown. People jump off high places and you just die, and that's the end of it. And I wanted that, but I was so lost, and the voices in my head would tell me to jump or do it. It was a very hectic time, and as a kid, it's so hard to deal with things like that. And I grew up and I had a fear for my mom. I was terrified of this woman, and I was scared to say the wrong things, do the wrong things, because everything I did, I felt like I made a mistake every time. I was such a loud, ignorant kid, I didn't know how to express myself. And it's painful. It's just a lot to take in as a kid. And looking back at it, it's very hard to see how I got this far and how I'm still alive to this day. And we're literally only in the first part of the story of chapter 1. There's still 2 parts to be added to this part until I move on to chapter 2. I remember having pets. I witnessed my dog being hit by a truck in front of me, which it was like one of the times too I saw my mom actually crumble down, and she fucking cried and she yelled, and it was like pain in her tone. And I wanted to cry so bad because I saw my mom cry and I saw my dog dead in front of me, bits and pieces like scattered all across the road. But I had to be tough. I had to. My brother was crying. I had to make sure he was okay. We had friends over who witnessed the dog just scattered. It was a mess. And I was trying to be tough for my mom. Show her that I want to just take care of her, you know? Like, I remember times too during the same area of time that my mom would have these boyfriends and they would constantly try to abuse her. My mom was a very bold, strong woman. She did not put up with shit like that. She fucking beat them up, pushed them around. She was, even though she was like a small woman, like 110, 12 pounds, like she's a pretty small woman. She would knock these fucking guys out that were like 180, 190 with just like nothing. She was such a fierce woman, and not only that it was just protective wise, we feared her as well. My brother especially was terrified of her, and I'm just a stubborn fuck, man. I was just so, I just went with it. Like I said, you can push me, and I'm just like, okay. And I remember one time I witnessed my mom being like harassed by the guy, her boyfriend, like pushing her around and stuff like that. And I wanted to protect her because she was always protecting us. And I remember this pretty well. I grabbed a pan, I put it on my head. I had a frying pan in one hand and I had a pot in the other. And I went into the room and I said, like, get away from my mom or I'm going to beat you with this. And I took the pan. I was about to swing so fucking hard at this guy. And my mom was like, see, look, my kids are here to defend me. You get out or whatever. And I remember him he like half naked ass, grabbed his clothes and just left. Like I had always wanted to be protective. I always wanted to be very caregiving to people and my mom. I just wanted to be there for people because I feel like no one was ever there for me except for my mom. And I feel like people always favored my brother. Everybody gave Chance all that love and affection. And I didn't really feel like I ever did. I was just that angry kid they wanted to avoid. And like I just felt really lost too. Very, very broken, very rough growing up. Like I was physically abused. I know I was emotionally abused. I was verbally abused for sure. I mean, my mom said some of the most gnarly things that you can say to your kid. And I was sexually abused. And it was a count of 2. I know there's a third time in there somewhere, but I know 2 as much as I can remember it. Even though it's like stored in my head and I'm trying to suppress it through the trauma. I was a very sexually active at a young age, and I did not stop pissing the bed until I was 13, which are the symptoms of sexual abuse. You wet the bed, you're very horny, you touch yourself. as a kid, like as a kid, and not even hit double digits yet. I know I witnessed my mom get beat up a few times, uh, in and out of foster homes, the abuse my dog died, going through. I don't have this on paper, and this is not scripted. I am literally just sitting on my couch, just going on what I remember and what I've been told. And um, I was a very destructive kid. I also stole a lot, just to act out. I act out a lot. Stealing was a thing. Lying was a big thing. And like I did not want to disappoint my mom because somehow even back then I did not want to disappoint her. I wanted to be good at what I did, and I was finding a purpose and finding reasons to help my mom out as much as she did what she could for us. Like even though I was just a kid and I was ADHD and I was all fucking angry and hyped up over everything, I was so smart and I was very observant, very collective, and I knew what I want and I was gonna get it. And I wanted to become a really good thief. I wanted to be like a Robin Hood, steal this stuff and give it to the poor, give it to the hungry, give it just. I stole candy for my brother and I because my mom didn't let us have candy or junk food, so I would steal it, but I'd give it to my brother and I. We would both have it. But my brother was he was the tattletale of us both. He told on me on everything I did, and so I get in trouble a lot. My mom tried to straighten me out with that. Like, try to beat us for the discipline, try to lock us in the room, put us in the corner. My mom completely forgot I was in the corner and I passed out in the corner. Um, that was very hard. Some parts is very hard to talk about to this day because I haven't dealt with most of it. I got by this far. I mean, I'm 22 years old now, and a lot of parts haven't been dealt with, and I wish I can, but my dad's not around, my mom's not around, and I'm kind of alone in that area. So, I guess I'll end the video from here. I do have other parts coming out. I just want to take my time with it and make sure I know what I want to be said. And if you guys like the video or story, I'm going to continue on anyway because I want to put my story out before I die or something. I just want to be known. And like I said, this video is not against the people in my life. It's not to put them down. It's not for people to attack them or go after them. It's my story. I just want to let people know what I've been through so they have an idea who I am and how I became me. And tell the truth and the untold story about me that a lot of people don't even know. Because I've been holding it in and I've been hiding it from everybody my whole life. Like nobody knew I was suicidal ever since I was a kid, as an example. So, um, subscribe, like the video, like the whole YouTuber thing people always say at the end of these videos. I don't really care about. I'm just doing it for fun. So, thank you for watching and taking the time. And we bond. That's all I could say.